Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Monday, June 16th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Stephen Wertheim, Senior Fellow in the American Statecraft Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. On the war Israel started against Iran. Also on the program today, Trump's parade, a flop. Meanwhile, No Kings protest draws millions across the country. Perhaps one of the largest single-day protests in the country in decades. Meanwhile, alleged political assassin, killer of two Minnesota Democrats and their spouses, apprehended and arrested. Israel continuing to slaughter aid seekers in Gaza. Senate Republican committees set to take the next step in Trump's reverse Robin Hood tax bill. New polls, Trump deportations unpopular. Genetic House Democratic ballot up by 8. Two top union leaders quit the DNC. Trump's FAA pick lied about having a commercial pilot license to fly airplanes. Yeah. G7 to meet in Alberta, Canada this week. And Trump to expand deportation in Democratic-run cities while pulling back on farm workers, restaurant workers, and meatpacking workers. Fancy that. All this, more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. Emma is not only out today, but she's married. We all went to the wedding, had a wonderful time. We'll wait and see if she wants to show pictures. That's not for us to do.
It's not the opening segment for the show today.
No. We'll wait and see. But she'll be back in a couple of days before she goes off on her honeymoon. And for those who have been watching the show, listening to the show for some time, I want you to imagine Emma on the eve of her wedding when war starts between Iran and Israel. A right-wing political assassin kills two Democrats in Minnesota, has a long list of Democrats that they're looking to target. AOC shows up at Zoran's rally Friday night. A court, I guess this was more on Thursday evening, first said that Trump had no power to federalize the National Guard in the way he did, and then another court reversed it. We'll be talking to the Attorney General of California tomorrow on the program briefly, get an update on what's happening with that court case. And then, of course, all the protests and the military marches that were going on just before her wedding. Literally had to take her phone and put it into a safe at the bottom of the ocean.
Those bags comedians give you at the start of their show.
CPG says, I appreciate that even on her special week, Emma is able to dip in on the Matt Annie Lowry Twitter beef. True loyalty. Let's get into this parade stuff first. Donald Trump had this parade. There were a lot of people who were, sort of, I don't know, worried is the word, but were sort of like a little bit concerned that it might be disturbing.
Mainly because he was promising to roll over people, basically, if they got in his way.
Yes, and there was this sense of like, what's it going to look like if, like, we've all seen those images from North Korea. It's intimidating, it's stark, it's fascistic. The level of training and dedication that is so clear amongst those military personnel, it would be foreboding. And just the idea of spending $45 million on this parade for Donald Trump, and it really was for Donald Trump, it turns out, was disturbing. And then it just turns out to be like sort of sad and pathetic. Here is a couple of clips of this is, and I should make it clear, this is from Scripps Media. We did not add any audio or take out any.
We didn't get Vic Berger to get in and do some Foley work.
Exactly. You're not seeing like, be prepared for throngs of people and tanks rolling down the street in Washington, D.C. Yeah, there it is. I mean, tanks are squeaky. You just would imagine at a big parade with throngs of people that you wouldn't be able to hear it, but not the case. This is a headline, number one. Just put this up. Trump military parade met with empty seats. Do we have that up? Trump military parade met with empty seats amid a nationwide protests. I'm sorry, did I say 45 million? $46 million parade. And literally it was almost for like 8 people.
Do you want to just tack another million on there because he's number 47?
Play number 4. Now these guys are, this looks like casual, like this is like a casual stuff here.
Not the tightest march. I don't know. I don't want to be too critical. I didn't join the military, but I've seen people march a bit tighter than that.
Thanks to our sponsor, Coinbase.
We did not put that in there either. We should tell you, apparently the military is now sponsored by Coinbase.
I think they're looking at making some Palantir.
Do we have that? Play that clip that I sent here in the IM. It should start right at the right time. I mean, look at this image here. Pop this image up. You can see this is in the middle of the parade, and it honestly looks like you're at a like a concert as they're, just practicing, the roadies are up there checking the instruments, or it's like, I don't know, at 10 a.m. on the morning of at
Bonnaroo, and,
exactly.
And it's kind of misty, so everyone's still in their tents.
Play that clip that I sent in there. Yeah, this one. You'll see, this gives you a good vision of like how, first off, this was almost exclusively for Trump. You have like him sitting on the dais there, like, but watch these clips, and then you can see the bobbing of the heads. That's what tells me that the march is not going the way that maybe Trump wanted it to.
Before our nation. And if it wasn't for this powerful, capable force we're seeing walking by today, we may not have had a United States of America. So I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have served. I'm so grateful for our soldiers that are marching today.
I love a band.
I'm grateful for all our veterans, whether they're Navy, you name it, all the services. We have 6 services.
Trump
I'm
so
grateful for
badly
those who
wanted to
serve.
do that
One
salute.
last thing.
Now look
A
at
lot of people don't know this.
look at all the the heads are bouncing up and down like
of
it's
our nation's
like it doesn't look
Now, that's
like
how-
right.
Uniform. I feel
Right?
like it's
Isn't
what
there
you're
like
going
isn't it supposed to all happen at the same
No
time?
one's,
I don't know.
twisting
I mean, I'm
any
not.
arms.
Can you imagine the actual morale of some of those troops?
My God.
Yeah, you said people like it might have been disturbing if it was super militaristic and sort of scary, but it might be disturbing if you're one of those people.
Oh, I would imagine.
Eddie's men.
Eddie's. I got to say it. I got to say it. And meanwhile, all of the people who I think Donald Trump expected would show up at his military parade, although he was, I guess, subsequently complaining that the fake weather news said it was 100% definitely going to rain, and it didn't. And he was mad about that. He thinks it's a plot to keep people away. It was scheduled to rain everywhere. I was in Riverhead, New York. I don't know how many 10, 20,000 people live there. I'm not sure. Maybe 30. Maybe it's more, but I can't imagine it's much more than that. And it was rainy. It was, there's about 35,000 people there in Riverhead, New York. And there was 1,500 people standing in the rain for the No Kings protest. Meanwhile, around the country, according to the polling outfit, Strength in Numbers, they crowdsourced data from the rallies. As of midnight last night, had analyzed about 40% of them. They counted 2.6 million people. So the estimates that we're seeing now are anywhere from like 5-6 million people nationally coming out in one day. That's a lot of people. Look at some of these pictures from around the country.
Here's one from St. Louis. Here's St. Louis from above.
That's
Instagram
crazy.
account, full park there. Go back to Sam. There's also San Diego here. Rest old neck of the woods.
Get that Atlantic piece up, because that's gonna. There are photos across the country. There were over 2,000 protests that took place, and this is where.
Demonstrators marching on the street in San Francisco here.
That's San Francisco. That looks like maybe
Iowa, Des Moines.
Iowa. I mean, across there,
That's
spelling out "No King." That's impressive.
It's in San Francisco again. This looks like, Chicago.
I mean, all across the country.
Oh, wow. This is a pretty packed one here in Chicago again, Daily Plaza.
I mean, that looks like Woodstock. I mean, it's like so
where's
many
Waldo?
people.
Holy smokes. Huge folks going down in Cincinnati here.
I mean, these are, these are pretty dramatic images.
This is Idaho State Capitol. Wow. A little bit more well attended than the military stuff, it looks like.
Meanwhile, of course, there was some violence. We had at least one instance of somebody ramming their car into protesters, killing one. The No Kings, it's unclear to me whether that right-wing terrorist in Minnesota was interested in attacking any No King protest. But that's what happened around the country. I think at the end, a humiliating day for Donald Trump. Here is an image of, or I should say a video, Jacob Soveroff from NBC. He's covering the protests in LA. And you can see in the screen, it's split screen at first with the military parade. And he starts off by saying completely peaceful. So he's got the military behind him. He's standing between the military and the protests. And if there was any sense that the protesters were doing something that was a little bit aggressive, he'd be on the side. He would not be in between the two. And watch what happens. It's clear that to the extent that there was any violence between protesters and cops, it was purposefully initiated by the police. Here at Sobroff.
I want to reiterate, this looks very intimidating. This has remained 100% peaceful as far as I have seen. People are out here with their signs. Here, may I show your sign, ma'am? Can I? You said your sign says.
We are not criminals.
Whoa, 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 let's go.
Peaceful protest. We're not doing nothing wrong.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
We have the freedom of speech.
Go, 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 go. You want to be careful, okay? You take care of yourself. So you can see, whoa, they're messing with the horses. Guys, let's go. Let's back up here. Obviously, people are unhappy, Ari. People don't want to see horses trampling. Let's go, guys. Let's go. Hey, Ari, we're okay. We're going to keep going. Stay with us if you can. JB, move a little faster back. They're pushing people with horses, which obviously gets people freaked.
Jacob, you're
and
on
again,
camera,
I haven't
but
seen,
do what you need to do.
Ari.
You're on camera, but take your time and space.
Whoa. Let's go. Whoa, shit. Let's go. Whoa. We're good, Ari. We're good. Keep going. I want to reiterate.
And you could hear Sobroff at one point was about to say to Ari Melber, like, I want to reiterate, it was completely peaceful until the cops decided to trample people with horses and then start firing projectiles at them.
Pushing people with a horse. Yeah, not the best de-escalation technique.
And also probably not the smartest PR move to do that as you have a reporter literally looking at the protesters saying 100% peaceful.
Here's a woman's sign. She almost gets trampled.
That's what's going around, and that is, I don't know if that's a function of like, we've got to be far more aggressive because of we've got the military here. I don't know, but that's
message from the top is clear.
Yep. And that's out Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, as far as we can tell, but unclear for sure. All right. In a moment, we're going to be talking to Stephen Wertheim, senior fellow in the American Statecraft Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, about the Israeli attack on Iran, which has kicked off what appears to be a growing war between the two of them. What the strategy is that Israel seems to be holding, and how Donald Trump seems to have been just rolled throughout the entire process. We'll talk to him in a moment. First, a couple of words from our sponsors. Delete Me is a product that I've been using for probably at least 10 years now, way before they became a sponsor. So it makes this easy for me. Delete Me makes it easy for you and for me, frankly, and quick and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches and doxing are common enough to make everybody vulnerable. Delete Me knows your privacy is worth protecting. You sign up, provide Delete Me with exactly what information you want deleted. Specific emails, addresses, relationships, and their experts take it from there. Delete Me sends you phone numbers, whatever. Delete Me sends you regular personalized privacy reports showing what info they found, where they found it, what they had removed. They do this on a monthly basis because a lot of these like data broker sites, they get repopulated. And understand, it's a question of if you want to keep your family, your business, you somewhat private from data broker sites, Delete Me regularly goes and scrubs them for you. If you're worried about ID theft or phishing scams, a lot of times hackers will buy information on the dark web, combine it with stuff that they find in brokerage, data broker sites. They use that for phishing stuff. Hi, Sam, it's Verizon. You send it to your email. How did they know my name? I don't have Verizon. That's what data broker stuff ends up doing. Want to thank Delete Me for sponsoring today's episode. With Delete Me, I protect both my personal privacy of my business, my family, all of it. And again, because these sites repopulate, Delete Me is constantly doing it, and then they send you reports as to where it is. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me now at a special discount for you. Today, get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting the word majority to the number 64,000. Only way to get 20% off is to text majority to the number 64,000. That's majority to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. We'll put a link in, or I should say those instructions in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. Also sponsoring the program today, Magic Spoon. My favorite breakfast. And now they got these bars that are awesome. It's all part of my less sugar program that I have instituted for myself, which, as long as we don't have cookies in the office, I'm okay. Every serving of Magic Spoon high protein cereal has 13 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 grams of net carbs. So it's good for you if you're doing like a low carb lifestyle. It's good for you if you're trying to get less sugar. It's good for you if you're looking for more protein. And they come in flavors that will be reminiscent of your childhood. Fruity, cocoa, frosted. I think I'm probably not allowed to say what they're related to, but I think everybody can remember. Also, Magic Spoon has these high protein treats. They're crispy, crunchy, airy, an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. And again, no sugar. They come in mouth-watering flavors like marshmallow, chocolate, peanut butter, dark chocolate. Magic Spoon, great for the kids insofar as they love it and you're not giving them a bunch of sugar. And the bars, same deal. And then I end up eating most of it anyways. Get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/majority report, or look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. It's catching on. That's magicspoon.com/majority report, $5 off. Check it out. We will put a link in the podcast and YouTube descriptions. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll be talking to Stephen Wertheim, Senior Fellow in the American Statecraft Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report. Emma Vigeland out today in her post-marital bliss. Joining us now, or returning to the program, Stephen Wertheim, Senior Fellow at the American Statecraft Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
We are in, I guess, day 4 of what is now a full-on war, it seems to me, between Israel and Iran. Let's go back. Give us the sort of the background, at least in terms of like the desire to attack Iran has been, I mean, at least in my awareness, this was something that was on the agenda of neocons in the run-up to the Iraq War. The idea is we're going to take Iraq, we're going to make that into a democracy. We're going to be met with candy and flowers. Then Syria and Iran was on that list. Give us a sense of just like, particularly from the perspective of the Israelis, but also in the context of the neoconservative movement.
Well, yeah, going back to the Iranian Revolution of 1979, the United States, particularly neoconservatives, but, many American policy elites have wanted to, engage in this grudge match between the two countries. The Iranians have wanted to engage. The United States have wanted to engage. That's a bipartisan thing. But you're right that neoconservatives, before 9/11 were thinking about Iran, Iraq. Of course, Iran and Iraq had a long war throughout the 1980s, which weakened both sides. We certainly supplied Iraq with, some of the chemical warfare that we thought that they ostensibly had or claimed that they had when we invaded Iraq. Yeah, so the U.S. government, considered Iraq to be the lesser of the two evils when the two sides were going head to head. But I think, most importantly for understanding the present predicament, it's been the goal of Israel and particularly Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to make sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, to try to shut down any amount of activity that could in the future be used by Iran to get a nuclear weapon, and even more than that, to obstruct U.S. efforts, which have now occurred on a bipartisan basis, to reach a deal with Iran that would provide for international inspections to ensure that Iran could not make a nuclear weapon. So in this case, it isn't, U.S. neocons that are pushing events, but rather the government of Israel, which decided to, it says it wanted to preempt an Iranian nuclear weapon, but Iran was some distance from being able to make a nuclear weapon. And in fact, both U.S. and Israeli intelligence have recently said that Iran had not made a decision to pursue a nuclear weapon, though it had taken steps in that direction by highly enriching uranium. So Netanyahu wanted to preempt another round of U.S.-Iran talks that might bring a new nuclear deal into fruition.
But there's something that is inherently contradictory there, it seems to me. And I wonder if Israel's fear of a nuclear Iran is also sort of a little bit of it's something we can all agree on quality, like a Paul Wolfowitz, in the sense that we had a deal with Iran. That was the JCPOA, that being the first Iran nuke deal, that by all accounts Iran was adhering to.
Right.
They have expressed what appears to be, I can different people can take it at face value or not, a reluctance to develop a nuclear weapon. And there were negotiations that, by all accounts, seemed to be not necessarily easy, but certainly being sincere, that both sides were engaging in. And this seems designed completely to short circuit that, which, if I'm Iran right now, I'm thinking the biggest mistake we ever made was not developing a weapon when Trump shut this down, because none of this attack would happen if we had a nuke weapon. How is this really an attempt to forestall an Iranian a nuclear weapon if this is launched in the midst of negotiations that very well may have done that?
Well, Israel didn't want negotiations to happen. You could say that maybe the Israelis didn't believe that what Iran agreed to would really prevent it ultimately from getting a nuclear weapon. But I agree with you, something else is going on here, right? And I think that something else is in part the perceived opportunity that Israel had to go after Iran and weaken the regime, maybe even see if they could topple the regime. We don't quite know what Israel's war aims are right now and what they will evolve into. Israel, going back to the last year, exchanged direct fire with Iran twice, severely weakened its air defense systems, the most advanced of which was a Russian-supplied S-300, which was able to knock out last October. That makes it easier for the Israelis to target Iran. Israel is also trying to go after Iran's retaliatory capabilities, its missile launchers, so that Iran will not be able to fire missiles and drones into Israel, although so far Iran has been able to do that and did some damage, although much less than Israel has done to Iran. In addition, Israel has disabled Iran-aligned forces in the region that were a key part of Iran's own deterrent strategy against Israel. It successfully and over U.S. objections during the Biden administration launched strikes at Hezbollah, which are quite similar to what it's doing right now to Iran, trying to paralyze the leadership. And that got Hezbollah to stop being able to fire rockets into northern Israel. And then it got some luck when Assad, who is aligned with Iran, when his regime melted away towards the end of the year. And so the Israelis, saw that they might never get a better time to strike Iran than what they could do in the first half of this year. So it was coming up to a kind of now or never choice for them, I think, in their mind. And yeah, they didn't want to go down the road of another JCPOA, this time with Donald Trump, who might actually be able to make it stick more than Obama, because ironically, Trump was the one who stupidly walked out of the JCPOA during his first term in the hopes of getting some kind of better deal that has never materialized. So I think, look, Israel has been traumatized after the October 7th, 2023 attacks, much like the United States after 9/11. It's become less acceptant of risk from external enemies, much as the United States was, more willing to do things that it previously wouldn't have done. And so now it's taken a big gamble, gone after Iran, and it's hoping that the United States will ultimately either continue to support Israel or even join in, which I think is a major risk, because ultimately to be able to knock back Iran's nuclear program, one has to hit, in particular, a site in Fordo in Iran buried deep in the mountains, and it's widely believed that only the United States has the capabilities to do that. I should also say, though, that even a direct U.S. strike, it may set back the Iranian program for maybe several years. But by the same token, as you mentioned, it may make Iran conclude that its mistake was to not actually proceed to make a nuclear weapon. And Iran can, as long as it has some scientists left, can do that and can be deceptive. It can pull out of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and it can speed toward a nuclear weapon.
How much of this timing was also motivated by what's going on for Netanyahu domestically?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't know. He's already got a war on his hands in Gaza and also fighting in the West Bank. So, I think the connection to Netanyahu's own political fate is a little clearer there. But it's true that Netanyahu has gone from looking dead in the water to escaping, prosecution himself and surviving politically as the Israeli prime minister yet again because of the wars that he's prosecuted since October 7th. And for him to stop them completely, I think would then expose him to accountability within Israel. So how much you can pin to this singular act against Iran, I'm not sure, but does he have a disturbing incentive to continue with military action? Yes.
Getting back to the idea that Israel found this to be its most opportune time because Iranian proxies or Iranian allied forces that would normally respond on Iran's behalf, or at least to some extent, have been wiped. What capacity does Yemen have? I know that they've fired some rockets. What capacity does Yemen have, and how concerned is Israel? I know that Israel, I think, also attacked Yemen, if I'm not mistaken. So how much, and is there any other sort of mechanism that Iran can deploy to attack Israel, or I imagine they're also, I mean, this is an open threat from Iran that if you assist in any way, and I want to get to that American role in a moment, but what are the other mechanisms that Iran has without having a Hezbollah or Syria or maybe even any type of, I mean, Western Iraq is usually not available to Iran. In my understanding, that tends to be more Sunni. What do they have left?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know right now in the very intense fog of war, exactly where Iranian military capabilities stand. They have shown the ability, including last night, to send ballistic missiles into Israel, to strike an oil refinery in Haifa, to kill some number of Israeli civilians. Not sure that their targeting looks like it's in great shape. So that's very much in flux, but they have, extensive ballistic missile capability, and they could continue to use that for as long as it's possible for them. But yeah, their proxies are down, but not out. The Houthis can also join in, as they've done in exchanging fire with Israel before. And the Iranian-aligned militias in Iraq, I think, are of particular concern. They could target U.S. service members in Iraq and Syria as well. So that's something to watch for. In addition, Iran could escalate by going after Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and it could try to block the Strait of Hormuz to disrupt oil. So I think if you think about what is Iran's strategy here, they don't have great moves in the short term, it seems to me. But if they're going to dig in and take a beating from Israel for a while, figuring that their population will unite rather than divide as a result, then I think they can make life difficult for the United States and Donald Trump, as perhaps oil prices spike. There's a threat that U.S. service members will be targeted, and a wider war that could draw in the United States directly, which President Trump doesn't want to happen. So, that's something I think to look for. Unfortunately, it's a little bit easier for me to imagine a long-term scenario right now for this conflict than how we get out of it within days.
How much, you mentioned UAE and Saudi Arabia, that Iran may attack, but it felt like in the past year or so, there has been some form of a rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran, who have been, at least as far as I can tell, for the last couple of decades, almost like, waging a proxy war over the course of that full 20 years, it seems like. But there was some type of a rapprochement. How much of that rapprochement was real? What are the possibilities that Saudi Arabia is sort of like sitting on the sideline, maybe cheering Israel on, in private? Like, what's that dynamic?
So there was a real rapprochement, maybe like bordering on too strong a word, but there was a real re-engagement diplomatically, a movement toward a cold peace rather than a hot one. So there was real movement, and I think that's a good thing right now, insofar as it will disincline Iran to strike those countries. And one big difference between the negotiations that led to the JCPOA under Obama and the current negotiations under Trump was that the Gulf states were opposed to the former, but actually supported the latter. So that's maybe a bit of good news in terms of regional dynamics. But the flip side of that is, it's going to be that much harder, I think, for there to be some kind of normalization between the Gulf states and Israel. So if you're thinking about, I think from an American perspective, there's always this like fantasy that, well, can we get to some better place in the Middle East so the U.S. isn't drawn in? Can we knit together some kind of stable equilibrium? And we can fantasize about something right now, but it looks very, very far away. And ironically, if you think about the trip that Trump took to the Gulf, which was meant to be his first foreign trip of this term, he kind of painted this story of a Middle East that was on the rise because old hatreds were being put aside and the U.S. wasn't doing nation building, regime change wars anymore. It was going to be more transactional and favor peace and stability. Okay, that's interesting. But this is just not a region that is primed to break out in peace and stability anytime soon. It's very hard to see that happening from this current round of military conflict between Israel and Iran. But we keep telling ourselves that that's the story. You remember the Biden administration also had its version of that story, which it promulgated just before the October 7th attacks. And then we're back into managing crises and risking the U.S. direct involvement in more conflict.
What is your sense? I mean, there are two sort of like competing stories as to Trump's role in this. One is that he was buttering up the Iranians, making them feel confident, following these negotiations and, pursuing peace, and that it was all a ruse to make the Iranians confident, so that the chief negotiator was sleeping in his own home, that the several of the top leadership of the Iranian government were sleeping in their own homes so that Israel could take them out. The other story is that Trump had basically said, don't do it, but didn't say it forcefully enough. Netanyahu launched the attack. Everybody knows what's going to happen after that. And gave Trump a cover story that made him seem like a super agent, that he was actually just doing this to lull them into a false sense of security and not actually seeking peace. Which is the one that you think, or is there a different story that makes more sense? Because it seems to me, if it is the case that he was doing this, I don't know how you negotiate anything ever again.
That's a problem, yeah. So I don't know exactly what happened. I think it's a little bit of both, but I think mostly, Trump was not leading the Iranians down a path over several months toward an Israeli strike on Iran. So in that sense, there may have been an element of ruse toward the very end, in the day or two prior to the Israeli strike last week, but I suspect that was it. And what it looks like is that, Trump was sincere about trying to have nuclear negotiations. He did not want Israel to strike Iran, figuring that would damage negotiations, which is probably correct. But that Netanyahu discussed this with Trump and got something that was not a red light. Maybe he got a green light at some point. I'd say more likely, based on what's been reported, he got a yellow light from Trump. But Trump didn't say no or spell out consequences for Netanyahu if he went ahead. Perhaps Netanyahu convinced him that the strike would actually be good for talks. Trump believes in coercive diplomacy. When he initiated these talks, he said there was a 60-day window. Now, he was seemingly willing to put that aside for the sake of talks which were supposed to occur yesterday. Trump, I wouldn't take that too seriously, but Trump believes in imposing pressure and negotiating at the point of the gun. And so the Israeli strike might have occurred to him, as somewhat in keeping with that strategy. And since the strikes began, he has repeatedly said that he still wants to get a deal. But it's going to be really difficult to get a deal because, yes, will the Iranians trust the United States? Will the Iranians believe that the United States can keep Israel from attacking Iran again? And can the Iranians agree to a deal that Israel would think is a win for itself? Seemingly, that deal would have to be quite draconian for Iran, which would then entail significant political risk for the Iranian leadership, because it would just look like a defeat and a humiliation. So hard to see how we put negotiations back together.
And Trump, though, reportedly has said, do not go after Khomeini, and which I guess ostensibly would be his way of being magnanimous. Has the Israeli strikes, and maybe this is outside your portfolio, but so in some places I have read that the strikes do not seem to have a strategy that one would take if one was looking for regime change, in that they have hit in sort of more popular places in Iran, that they haven't been necessarily focused on, taking out the weak antelope, as it were, like to create fissures within, because there are already existing fissures within Iranian society. There has always been a significant both reform, I guess, movement in Iran, and perhaps even a counter-revolutionary one. And Iran has a history of both autocratic dictators, but prior to that with Mossadegh and the United States CIA was very involved in getting rid of Mossadegh. But there is a history of some form of democracy there. It does not appear, or at least from what I've read, that Israel has been attempting to attack in a way that it would exacerbate those fissures, but instead has attacked in such a way that has appealed to that would create a sense of nationalism within Iran, which understandable. But what's your take on that?
I think it's hard to know what a viable strategy to attempt regime change through airstrikes would actually look like. That is not something that has succeeded before. There's some recent scholarship on this. So airstrikes just do not tend to be enough to produce regime change. Now, you could argue that striking.
And they're so blunt. I mean, it's like literally there's a force coming from the sky, and everybody is subjected to that, and it creates a sort of. It seems to me that it would create a tightening of national bonds.
From what I've seen, that's what's happened, and I want to be cautious about trying to sort through the empirical information, but that is certainly what I would predict based on what I know about how conflicts like this, how they occur. And, it's also the case that Iran did not attack Israel first. So from an Iranian perspective, this looks like an aggressive Israeli attack on their country. If you want to ascend, if you're looking to jockey for position in a post-regime situation, you probably also want to look like a national patriot.
Right.
And that means not welcoming aggressive strikes by Israel on your country. But there's no clean way to try to take out a regime. So Israel has targeted leading regime figures who are often in populated areas, and that creates so-called collateral damage. And we'll also have to see whether we see escalating strikes in terms of the civilian damage. There were reports just before we spoke about wider targeting of the capital city, Tehran.
Where is Russia or China in this? I mean, is there an attempt at the UN? Are they leading any type of attempt there? Are they weighing their options as to how they would weigh in this situation? How do they react to this?
I think it's something of an opportunity for them in the court of international public opinion. Trump said that he spoke to Vladimir Putin, and Putin offered to mediate. So we'll see about that. But the Security Council, whatever moves they make in the Security Council, it's going to be to just benefit from negative perceptions of a U.S.-enabled Israeli strike. And obviously the U.S. would veto anything in the Security Council that they would put forward. So once again, U.S. involvement in a Middle Eastern conflict will damage the U.S. position more broadly in the world, and also in the areas where U.S. policymakers themselves say are their strategic priority, namely East Asia. The United States is now going to beef up its military presence in the region, taking away from the pivot toward Asia that Pentagon planners in this administration had wanted to bring about. And we are, to put it mildly, not out of the woods in terms of a potential direct U.S. involvement in this war. And I want to emphasize that because I think one thing that the Israelis may be thinking about is, they have a lot of success, and the quickest way to end the war comes to be seen as the United States providing the final strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. And so Netanyahu says, Trump, if you'll just order that, which I don't have the capability to do, then Israel's willing to stop, and you have a way out of this situation. And, I think there's at least a decent chance that Trump would agree to that and hope that Iran backs down and doesn't retaliate directly against the United States.
How likely does it seem like Iran in that situation would not retaliate, and how likely do you think it is that wouldn't inspire perhaps a whole new generation of international terror attacks?
Yeah, so for the short term, hard to say. It depends how weakened Iran has been and whether it just needs a timeout. But as you say, it's really hard to imagine that Iran rethinks its entire foreign policy from there and decides that it should just focus on building its economy and become pro-Western and, decide that it had been struck for just reasons. This is not the way states behave. This is not consistent with what we've seen from Iran for a long time. So I then worry about getting off to the races with a new round of violence, perhaps through different methods than what we've seen of late.
It does not look like what happens from here in is necessarily going to be positive, unless for whatever reason Israel decides that they're done. Stephen Wertheim, Senior Fellow at the American Statecraft Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Sorry, it's always a bummer when I come on.
If it makes you feel any better, there's a lot of guests that we have on these days where that tends to be the situation. But maybe we'll try and book you when peace breaks out. We'll make sure that you're the first person we call in that event, so you can deliver some good news.
It's a deal. I'll be standing by my email.
Thanks, Stephen. All right, folks. We got to take a break and head to the fun half. We got a lot of IMs ranging from folks in Wisconsin. 500 people came out in Twin Lakes, Wisconsin, which is a town of 6,000. Bingo Dango wants to talk about the New York Times effectively endorsing Cuomo without explicitly saying it. There was a Zoran rally at an indoor rally. Yeah, about 3,000 people, which...
The Terminal 5 one?
Yeah, I think it was like over the weekend.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything remotely like that during any Democratic primary. For mayor, I'm completely unaware of it.
There was a joke tweet going around saying if you tweet out Zoran Mamdani, you instantly get like 1,000 retweets, and it's not actually that far off. Like I posted the Breakfast Club clip of him talking about free buses, and it's been seen by millions of people.
It is, it's hard to. In the main, it is hard to sort of to extrapolate, because there are times where, visibility simply does not equate votes. I've told the story many times. I was up in New Hampshire in 2008, covering the Republican primary. And I remember going through Manchester in the greater Manchester area and going, my God, Ron Paul, he could be a sleeper here, because everywhere you look, there were people out there with Ron Paul signs. And it just turned out that everybody who voted for Ron Paul also held a sign.
Yeah.
They were just incredibly enthusiastic people. Now, the only thing I would say is that in the context of a primary, the New Hampshire primary in 2008, there's a lot of media attention. And everybody in Manchester, New Hampshire, and in New Hampshire for that matter, is aware of it. Like that was their thing. A New York Democratic mayoral primary in the middle of the summer just generally does not create that level of enthusiasm or awareness. I mean, people, there are numerous times in the past where like the primary comes and goes and nobody knows it's even happened. And so this is unique, I think.
I think that if my understanding is that rally was for volunteers also, which is wild because, it's not just 3,000 people who like schlepped out to spend their Saturday that way. Those are people who, in addition to that, have been volunteering to go knock on people's doors and hand out stuff. So it says something about the intensity and size of his volunteer army.
Yeah, like 3,000 is a measurable number of votes that you would have in a primary, never mind volunteers in a mayoral primary. So we will see. I mean, Michael Bloomberg has opened up the coffers for Cuomo, as I imagine other right-wing billionaires have. So we'll see. But early voting is now. You can go now and vote. I think it's every day, just about every day. You can search. Oh, darn it. I had it. I can't remember.
While you're looking for that,
maybe will you get the voting site and we'll put it on. But you can easily Google, where is my New York City Democratic primary polling place?
Find your poll site.
Find your poll site. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the address is vote.nyc, but
vote.nyc. It's super easy.
There should be some kind of penalty if your money spent for each vote exceeds a certain amount, which Cuomo's is destined to do.
Oh my God, yes. Also, before we head to the fun half, just want to say thank you to listener Anne. She had, I think it was, I don't know if we ever made it, but she had, I think it was the runner-up in the Vergonia sweeps that we had. Senza Vergonia. And I can't remember what Senza means, but she sent this mug.
I think it means ashes or ash, right?
I'm not sure, but somebody who speaks Italian might know.
It means without, so without shame.
Without shame.
Senza Vergonia.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. So it flips it on its head. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful mug. I think you can probably find them at her site. Check out PicTrixDesign.com. Pic, P-I-C, Trix, T-R-I-X, design.com. And folks, if you want to support this program, go to jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you help this show survive and thrive. And then you get the free half free of commercials, and then you get to IM us on the fun half. Also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, hot chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Try the MR blend. I wonder if they're going to keep the WTF blend there. They probably will.
Well,
why wouldn't they?
You think we could take the market share?
I mean, we could promote it, and we could talk turkey over this thing. But Matt, Left Reckoning.
Yeah, Left Reckoning for patrons, patreon.com/Left Reckoning. David and I talked about one of the great essays on Israel-Palestine by Tony Judt. Came out in 2003 in the New York Review of Books called Israel, the Alternative. I went into the history about it a little bit, but rereading it, it's one of the first things I ever read on the subject. I remember talking about it with Michael. He made a big impact on him too. And it's one that I think it's hard to make a more concise argument, and it's crazy how well it's aged since.
We should
and
find.
Tragically, it's aged since 2025.
Janine and I had Tony in at least on
I
two
put that on the
occasions.
best of once before.
Yeah, and I think we had him in about Israel in particular. We got to dig up that stuff.
Aging to me is realizing that Tony Jett's way better essayist than Christopher Hitchens. Sorry.
Well, there you have it, folks. I would tend to agree with you. He was a very, very smart guy.
Insane. His book Post-War, which is a huge tome, like a history about Europe after World War II, is essential. If you have a credit on Audible or something, I'd pick that up.
We should try and dig up some of those interviews these days. Maybe make that like a bonus members thing, or occasionally roll them out. Folks, see you in the fun half.
3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow.
What? What is that going on?
It's nuts.
Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.